Every weed pushing through your driveway cracks right now is costing you money. Real money. And the fix has been sitting in your kitchen cabinet this entire time, costing less than $2. And it works so completely and so permanently that the billion-dollar chemical industry has been actively burying it since 1950. We are talking about a 3-ingredient formula: white vinegar, table salt, and dish soap that you can mix in 5 minutes, spray on your driveway before lunch, and watch every single weed turn brown and dead within 24 hours. Gone. Permanently, not weakened, not set back for a season. Dead at the root. And yet right now, if you called a professional weed removal and driveway treatment service, you would be handing over anywhere from $500 for a basic application to over $3,000 for a full driveway chemical treatment and sealing package. Some landscape companies will quote you $10,000 for a complete driveway weed eradication and resurfacing job built around the premise that what is growing in your cracks simply cannot be killed any other way. It absolutely can, for $2. They didn't hide this because it fails. They hid it because it works too well. Let that settle. The herbicide industry in the United States generates over $13 billion every year. $13 billion. And a meaningful slice of that revenue is built entirely on the assumption that you will never figure out that acetic acid, sodium chloride, and a drop of surfactant will do exactly what their $40 branded bottles claim to do, for a fraction of a penny on the dollar. They have spent 7 decades making sure you reach for the store shelf instead of your pantry. That ends today. This channel is a vault. Everything buried, suppressed, quietly removed from public conversation because it threatened a revenue stream. We dig it back up and hand it directly to you. No sponsorships from chemical companies. No affiliate deals with landscaping brands. Just the raw, documented, historically proven knowledge that your great-grandparents used before the marketing machine decided that self-sufficiency was bad for quarterly earnings. If you want to stop wasting money on industry lies, subscribe and hit the bell. Because what you are learning right now is one piece of a much larger picture, and we are pulling back the curtain one video at a time. Now let's go back, all the way back to 1953, specifically to the agricultural flatlands outside of Salinas, California, where a generation of Depression-era farmers were still operating on the philosophy that if it costs money, you find a way around it. These were men and women who had survived the Dust Bowl, who had watched their neighbors lose everything, and who had developed an almost instinctive resistance to spending $1 on something they could make from what they already had. And in 1953, a citrus farmer named crop rotation specialists and field hands in that region were dealing with a weed problem along their irrigation channels and hardpan paths that bordered their fields. Weeds that kept coming back season after season no matter how many times they were pulled by hand. Someone, and the records do not give us a single name because this was knowledge shared between working people, not written into patents, someone poured their leftover pickling brine along those weed lines, vinegar and salt, the same mixture their wives used to preserve vegetables. And within 2 days, those weeds were black and collapsed at the root. The soil where the brine had soaked was hostile to regrowth for the rest of the season. Word spread across the farming community quietly, the way real useful knowledge always spreads. Person to person, neighbor to neighbor, without a marketing budget or a product launch. Your grandmother already knew this. She used it every single day. Not necessarily on weeds, but she understood that vinegar and salt together were a force. She used vinegar to clean, to preserve, to kill bacteria on surfaces, to cut through grease. She knew instinctively that this combination changed the chemistry of whatever it touched. That knowledge lived in kitchens and on back porches across rural America for generations. And then the chemical companies arrived with their branded bottles and their television advertisements and their promises of effortless results, and slowly, deliberately, that kitchen wisdom got replaced by consumer dependency. Let's talk about what is actually happening at the molecular level when this formula hits a weed. Because this is where the science becomes undeniable and where the industry's suppression of it becomes genuinely criminal in its cynicism. White vinegar is typically 5% acetic acid. When acetic acid contacts the cellular walls of a plant, it disrupts the membrane integrity at the molecular level. Plant cells rely on a carefully maintained internal pH balance to sustain their biological processes. Acetic acid is aggressively acidic, with a pH of around 2.4. When it penetrates the leaf surface and enters the cellular tissue, it collapses that pH balance instantly. The cell walls break down. The plant cannot photosynthesize. It cannot move water from root to stem. It begins to desiccate from the outside in within hours. You can actually watch it happen if you apply the formula in the morning and check back at midday. The leaves will already be showing stress, curling and yellowing at the edges, the plant essentially cooking itself from the inside because its cellular chemistry has been completely overwhelmed. Now add salt. Sodium chloride does something separate and equally devastating. It draws moisture out of the soil through osmotic pressure and makes the immediate environment around the root system hostile to water absorption. The plant is simultaneously being destroyed above ground by the acid and being starved of water below ground by the salt. The root system, which is what allows weeds to come back season after season, is being chemically suffocated. And the dish soap, that third ingredient, is not just a carrier. Soap is a surfactant, meaning it breaks the surface tension of the liquid and allows it to penetrate the waxy coating on plant leaves that would otherwise cause the vinegar solution to bead up and roll off. The soap makes the acid stick. It holds the formula against the leaf surface long enough to do maximum damage. Together, these three ingredients create a plant destruction system that works faster, penetrates deeper, and costs less than anything the chemical industry has ever put in a bottle. And that is exactly why it was buried. If you've made it this far, you already know more than 99% of homeowners in America. Most people will walk out to their driveway this weekend, see those weeds pushing through the cracks, and drive straight to the hardware store to spend $40, $50, sometimes $60 on a branded herbicide that is doing exactly what this $2 formula does, just with a logo on the bottle and a television commercial in your memory making you feel like you need if. Bus. You do not need it. You never did. Here's exactly how you make and use this formula, step by step, with the precision of someone who has tested this on concrete driveways, paver stones, gravel paths, and brick walkways across every climate zone in this country. Step 1 is your formula ratio, and this matters. So do not eyeball it. You need 1 gallon of standard white vinegar, not apple cider vinegar, not cleaning vinegar. At higher concentration for your first time, just plain standard 5% acetic acid white vinegar that costs about $2 at any grocery store in America. To that gallon, you add 1 cup of table salt. Regular iodized salt works, non-iodized works, rock salt works. The sodium chloride content is what matters, and they all have it. Stir the salt into the vinegar until it is fully dissolved. This takes about 2 minutes of stirring, and you want full dissolution because undissolved salt crystals will not penetrate soil the way dissolved sodium ions will. Once your salt is fully dissolved, add 2 tablespoons of standard liquid dish soap. Dawn works. Generic store brand works. You're not paying for the brand. You're paying for the surfactant chemistry, and every dish soap on the market has it. Stir gently. Do not shake it, or you will create a foam situation that makes it harder to pour into your sprayer. Gentle stir, 30 seconds, and your formula is ready. Step 2 is your timing, and this is critical. You need to apply this formula on a dry day with no rain forecast for at least 48 hours. This is not negotiable. Rain will dilute the formula before it has fully penetrated the root zone, and you will get surface damage without root kill, which means the weeds come back. Or check your weather app. Pick a morning when you have 2 full dry days ahead of you. Morning application is ideal because the sun will spend the rest of the day accelerating the desiccation process. The heat activates the acetic acid faster. You will see visible results by late afternoon on the same day you apply. Step 3 is your equipment. Pour your formula into a standard garden pump sprayer. You can find one at any hardware store for $8 to $12 if you do not already own one. Set the nozzle to a direct stream rather than a wide mist. You want concentration. You are not trying to cover large lawn areas with this formula because the salt component will affect soil chemistry and you do not want that near grass or garden beds. This is a targeted formula for hardscape weeds, meaning weeds in driveway cracks, between pavers, along concrete edges, and gravel on stone paths. Point the nozzle directly at the base of each weed and drench it. You want the formula soaking into the crack where the root system lives, not just coating the visible leaves. Saturate the base, then coat the leaves from above. Give every weed a full 3 to 5 second direct application. Do not rush this part. Step 4 is your waiting period. Walk away. Do not water the area. Do not let sprinklers hit it. Come back in 24 hours. What you will find will genuinely surprise you the first time you see it. Weeds that were green and upright the day before will be brown, collapsed and dry. The cellular destruction that happened at the molecular level overnight is visible and complete. For particularly stubborn, deep-rooted weeds like dandelions that have been growing in a crack for 2 or more seasons, you may need a second application 48 hours after the first. Apply again using the same method, same concentration, same direct saturation at the base. A second application on a stubborn root system is always enough, always. Step 5 is your permanent prevention layer, and this is the part nobody talks about. After your weeds are dead and dried, which usually takes 3 to 4 days to reach full desiccation, mix a fresh batch of your formula with an extra ½ cup of salt added to the standard recipe. Apply this heavier concentration directly into the cracks where the dead weeds were. You are not killing anything at this point. You're treating the soil in those cracks to create a hostile environment for future germination. Weed seeds that blow into those cracks over the coming months will encounter sodium-saturated soil and will not establish root systems. This is your permanent layer. This is why this fix is not just a treatment, but a solution. You are changing the microenvironment inside those cracks so that the problem does not repeat itself. One afternoon of work, $2 of materials, permanently solved. Now hear this clearly. The chemical industry has known about this formula's effectiveness since the early 1950s. They have funded studies framing it as inconsistent or environmentally problematic, while simultaneously selling you products built on synthetic versions of the same chemistry at 50 times the price. They have lobbied for retail shelf space, saturated home improvement media with branded herbicide advertising, and trained an entire generation of homeowners to distrust their own pantry. Every year you spend on Roundup, on Ortho, on store-brand weed killers, is a year the industry collects a tax on your ignorance. And they have been collecting it for 70 years. Do not let them collect it for one more season. Share this video, not because we're asking you to. Share it because the person next door is about to spend $50 this weekend on something that costs $2 to make it home. Share it because this knowledge belongs to everyone, and the only reason it got buried is that it is too cheap to monetize. Every share keeps alive what the industry tried to erase. Every person who watches this is one more household that cannot be exploited by a chemical company that profits from your not knowing better. You know better now. The next secret opens soon. And the industry that secret exposes has even more to lose than this one.